Hello dear viewers, welcome back to Turkish series stars. Make sure you're subscribed, tap like, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment, because tonight we're diving into a tense, fragile chapter unfolding around Can Yaman and Demet Özdemir. The energy is heavy, the stakes are raw, and every whisper in the hallway feels like it might break into a storm. It begins under the cold glow of hospital lights, where the couple waits with family, shoulders tight, breaths shallow. A voice cracks the silence, "How is Mr. Hill?" The question hangs in the air, heavy and trembling. The doctor, eyes guarded and tone measured, answers without ornament, "He's still in surgery. We're doing everything we can. No promises yet. Just wait." Time stretches. The fluorescent bulbs hum like a stubborn memory. Can paces, wrestling with 1,000 unsent messages and 1,000 regrets. He presses his palms to his face and mutters to Demet, lower than a whisper. "This is all because of the Leila case. My uncle still believes I'm in love with her." The words dragged like chains across the floor. Demet steps close, steady as a quiet tide, and places a hand on his arm. "What happened to him isn't your doing," she says softly, searching his eyes. "You know you're not in love with her, right?" He swallows, but the doubt doesn't fade. Rumors stick like tar when they land in a family's ear. Moments blur. Footsteps pass. Doors open and shut. The same door finally swings again. This time the doctor is back. "It's too soon to make promises," he says, voice tight but honest. "We did everything we knew how to do. His condition is still critical. Hope is what we have right now. Hold on to it." The room sinks into a hush so deep you could hear a thought shatter if it fell. Demet squeezes Can's fingers until the tremor in his hands is the only movement between them. Meanwhile, far from the ICU, a completely different storm erupts in a cramped living room that smells of coffee and candle smoke. Isa is pacing like a metronome set too fast. "Oh no, my boyfriend's missing." "This is all your fault," she flings at her friends, eyes flashing with frustrated fear. "Your bad energy is destroying what we have." She grabs a bundle of dried sage like it's a lifeline and strikes a match. The smoke curls into the corners of the room as if hunting for answers. One friend groans and waves the haze away. "Stop with that nonsense," she says, half laughing, half annoyed. Isa plants her feet. "You're just jealous. My connection with him is real, and I won't let your negative energy tear it apart." The retort springs across the sofa like a rubber band snapping. "When did you go crazy?" Isa glares and keeps circling. The sage burns down to ash. The phone remains silent. Back at the hospital, whispers slither in from the street like wind under a door. "I heard Uncle Hell has fallen seriously ill," someone says, mispronouncing a name that means everything to Can. A passerby adds fuel. "They say his blood pressure dropped. They took him in an ambulance." Another voice, "He's in the hospital right now." Panic spreads the way only fear can, fast and sloppy. The cousins hear it and bolt, tearing through the night toward the automatic doors that exhale cold air and antiseptic. Soon they're outside the intensive care unit, faces pressed with worry, eyes red, fingers laced in silent prayers. His condition is still serious, the nurse tells them, gentle but firm. One of the cousins breaks. "If anything happens to him, I'll never forgive myself," she sobs, grief zigzagging through her breath. They're told to go home. To rest. To let the doctors work. She shakes her head, stubborn as grief itself. "I'm not leaving without seeing him," she whispers, chin lifted even as her voice trembles. Time drips like old honey. Every beep from a machine sounds like a verdict. Demet disappears for a moment and returns with tea in paper cups, the steam painting fleeting halos. She hands one to Can, who stares into the liquid as if it could tell the future. He checks his phone again. Messages from numbers that never called him before keep lighting up the screen, blogs, strangers, headlines looking for a spark. He turns it face down and leans into Demet, the quiet between them a thin kind of comfort. She feels the tension running through him like a live wire. The Leila mess had been noise to the public, but to family it had become a dark stain no apology could scrub in a day. "We both know who you are," Demet says, lifting his chin with 2 fingers. "You weren't where they said you were. You weren't with who they say." He nods, but doubt still circles like a vulture. He remembers his uncle's last stern glance, the unspoken verdict in it. Did Mr. Halil really think the worst? Did a lifetime of trust buckle under gossip's weight? In another corner of the city, Isa kicks at a rug, watches the sage smoke thin into the quiet. She checks her phone again. No messages. Her voice softens, then hardens, then cracks. "If he loved me, he'd answer." One friend puts a hand on her shoulder. "Isa, maybe he just needs space." Isa jerks away. "He's my boyfriend. He doesn't need space. He needs to stop soaking up your gloom." The friend lifts her eyebrows. "We're not a thundercloud," she says dryly. "You can't burn us out of your living room." Isa's laugh is this side of a sob. "You don't get it. Fit and I are connected. He's not just anyone. He can feel what I feel." Another friend mutters under her breath, "Then why isn't Fit picking up?" Hours pass where seconds should be. The cousins sink into plastic chairs. Someone spreads a thin blanket across a lap. Demet steps into the hallway to breathe and catches the tail of another rumor drifting by like a loose balloon. They say Uncle Hell is a lost cause. She inhales sharply, then meets the gossip with a gaze cold enough to freeze it. Back inside, Ken sits with a cousin who can't stop shaking. He lends his voice like a steadying arm. "He isn't gone. We're still here. We wait. We don't abandon him in our minds." The cousin nods like a child trying to be brave. A nurse returns. "Nothing new yet," she says, and you can almost hear hearts crack a fraction under the news. The cousin who vowed to stay wipes her face and picks up her phone again. She dials a number labeled Simply Fit. It rings and rings and rings. No answer. She tries again. Still nothing. She tries a third time, desperate steps to a door that won't open. "I can't believe she's still asking about Fit right now," another cousin whispers, half judgment, half exhaustion. The one dialing hears it and turns away, shame and worry making a storm out of her breath. The doctor appears once more, his coat pulling the room into attention. "It's still too early to call," he says, and you can tell he wishes he could say more. "We did our best." He's fighting. "Keep your phones on. Rest if you can." The words roll off like rain that doesn't quite soak the ground. Demet nods, the picture of composed strength, but her fingers betray her, tapping a nervous rhythm on the cup. Outside, the city keeps moving, sirens weaving through traffic, bakeries warming their ovens, the night pretending it doesn't hear the pleas of strangers. Inside, Ken presses his forehead to the cool glass of a window and thinks of all the times Mr. Halil stood taller than trouble, the man who taught him not to blink when the world tried to scare him. And yet one rumor, one name, Leila, had wormed its way into the foundation. How do you fix a crack you didn't make? Demet steps up beside him. "We will make it right," she says with a certainty that is almost defiant. "We will show him truth with time. We will be stubborn about love." Ken exhales. "I know. But I hate that he went into that room believing a lie." Her face is patient, a lighthouse that stays lit even when the fog is thick. He turns toward her, the gratitude unspoken but loud. Far apart but somehow still part of the same restless night, Isa stands at her door, keys in hand, thinking of Fit. She calls again. No answer. She talks to the ceiling like it's a judge. "You're just jealous," she had snapped earlier. But fear is a liar that makes us loud. Her anger melts into worry, worry into resolve. "If he won't answer, I'll find him," she decides, grabbing her coat. Then her phone buzzes, just a delivery notification. She nearly throws it. She lights another stick of sage as if smoke could draw him home. The cousins cluster tighter outside the ICU, forming a fragile fortress around the worry. The nurse moves through the circle with professional grace. His condition is still serious, she repeats, but there's a steadiness to the way she says it that keeps the room from collapsing entirely. A cousin cries again. The vow returns, fiercer now. If anything happens to him, I'll never forgive myself. Demet slides in with a tissue and a firm glance that says, breathe, drink, sit up straighter. Ken thanks the nurse, his voice low and sincere, then sits with his back to the wall and stares at the closed door the way a sailor watches the horizon, waiting for a sign that the weather will break. Midnight creeps past. Then 1. Then 2. Hope gets quiet at that hour, so small you might miss it if you aren't careful. The group approaches the desk again, exhausted but polite, their questions careful not to sound like demands. Please let us know if there's any change in Halyaz's condition, one cousin says, the name bent by fear into something that barely resembles the man it belongs to. Of course, the nurse answers, kindness steady as her pen across a chart. We will call you immediately. And so the night drifts toward morning, carrying with it the weight of guilt and the ache of unanswered calls. Will Mr. Hill survive? Will Fit reappear, or will that phone keep ringing into a dark where no one listens? And what secret sits between these people? Old resentments, new lies, a name like Leila repeating in the back of a mind, waiting to be dragged into the light? Hold tight, dear viewers. Keep your notifications on. When dawn finally steps through these windows, we'll be here to tell you what it finds. For the latest twists and the quiet truths behind them, stay close to Turkish series stars. We'll bring you every update as Yaman and Demet Özdemir stand shoulder to shoulder against the rumors, the fear, and the long, sleepless hours, because some nights change everything, and this might be one of them.